Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and ground vehicles are the topic of the day. Recently, CIG made a post in a roadmap roundup where I guess a developer has kind of got a little bit of extra time on their hands, or maybe a couple of developers, and they're going to take a bit of a stab at improving handling and personality, I guess would be one way of putting it. Making the personalities of the different ground vehicles stronger. Now, I made a video not too long ago talking about some of the deficiencies in ground vehicles and their handling, especially considering that most of these vehicles are off-road vehicles for obvious reasons. The planets don't have roads. There are a lot of issues with ground vehicles, but I think that before we really dig into the design deficiencies in a lot of these vehicles, and I have to be clear, there really are two sets of deficiencies with the ground vehicles. There's the obvious glaring problems in their designs, but are they really material in the Star Citizen universe, right? Like, you can call out all kinds of little things, like you wouldn't do that with an off-road vehicle, and you wouldn't build your suspension that way. You would actually build it a different way. But it's a sci-fi universe, and we can let a lot of this stuff slide because a lot of it isn't really material in the Star Citizen universe. It's not something that as a player you're really going to care about. If you were designing this for the real world, then you would look at it and just say no. But in Star Citizen, what we're worried more about is gameplay, usability, and feasibility of a design. In order to address that, we need more of a reason to use ground vehicles, and currently that is strongly deficient. There are a few missions with enemies that appear out on the ground, but to go out to get the vehicle and to then bring the vehicle to the planet to do the mission, if the mission is up, it's a little bit difficult. What I think really needs to happen before we start to try to tune vehicle performance, when we're still asking questions about vehicle viability, what needs to happen is, for instance, I have just left ArcCorp 141 on Daymar, ArcCorp mining outpost, right? What really needs to happen is we need to have some strong use cases for these ground vehicles. We have to have reasons to go out there and take them into battle and really try them out and look at, okay, this vehicle versus this vehicle. What vehicles are coming out on top? What vehicles are coming out strong? What vehicles are really coming out weak? We need to really address a lot of these issues, and then we can start to look at handling and personality and ride on low gravity environments versus normal gravity environments are certainly things that we need to discuss. But what we really need is we need to stop looking at ground vehicles as, well, it's got guns and it looks good in a JPEG. We have to start seeing, does it really work in battle? Does it work in combat? What I would like to see happen instead is that, let's say when you land at ArcCorp 141, there are missions that will appear there, and it will say, by the way, if you've got time, 9 kilometers to the north of here, and we will mark it for you, there is a group of Ninetails who are spying on the ships that are coming and leaving from this station. Can you go and wipe them out? They've got a few ground forces there, and we'd like to end this surveillance so they'd stop intercepting our freighters. And you can go and do that yourself and a buddy in the turret, obviously, or yourself and a couple of buddies in a tank, or yourself alone in a dragonfly or something like that. We need to start having missions like that pop up in the game, even if it's temporarily, just so that we have a real reason to kind of take these vehicles out, to try them out, and to use them repeatedly and often in combat. And it's not enough to just kind of have it and do it one time. You have to be able to do it again and again and again and again, right? Because this is where all the errors and all the bugs and all the kind of, and I hate to use this term, but the lived experience of these vehicles can really show through. Now, I have kind of outlined, and certainly in the past I have outlined, that there are certain design deficiencies with vehicles, and this one in particular, the Tumbrel, the Jeep. I still wish that it was an enclosed cockpit in this. It's just a couple of plates that need to come down over the front after the driver is in, and then you have a sealed environment so you could still, I guess, eat a snack or take a drink of water while you're out on a long ground mission. But these are the things that wouldn't show up when you're just out puttering around. These are the things that would show up when you're actually doing this for long periods of time in the game. Now, they don't all necessarily have to be combat missions as well. Sorry, there's a bit of a graphical screw up here with my spacesuit. That's the weird kind of like line that you're seeing flipping around outside of my character in the vehicle. But you can have non-combat missions. You can say, hey, there is a signal coming from the north of here, and you can use your sensors to kind of dial it in and track it down, but it's a down satellite. Or go collect mineral samples from over here with your hand mining tool, or go collect biological samples from this other environment, or things along those lines. There's a lot of these missions that can be created and put into the game that would give us more of a reason to take these ground vehicles out, other than the longer, much more contrived, and sometimes just ultimately wasteful and inefficient use of ground vehicles that we have currently, because they don't, it's more of a gimmick to take them out than a need. You know what I mean? Now, what I've talked about here today, and oh, by the way, putting in the storage, that is that was a great move, and that I wanted to make sure I included that in this video. Great, absolutely great move. Finding the storage on the Drake Dragonflies as well was pretty amazing. But if what I'm talking about, it obviously is much more substantial changes to the game than what this developer intends to do. And so I would offer what I would say is a more profitable alternative or use of time than looking at vehicles and their different handling characteristics and their different personalities. Well, I think what would be the most profitable use of time for a developer right now is we're not really in a place where we should be talking about vehicle, identity and personalities as much, because the vehicles they have much broader physics issues than I think a lot of people realize. Being somebody who was actually out climbing up the side of a mountain with a vehicle, this is a bit extreme. I would definitely not try to go up a road that steep. But there are a lot of issues. What would best benefit the ground vehicles in Star Citizen right now would be a compass and a throttle limiter. the ability to, the same thing that we have on spaceships in Star Citizen, the ability to set a value manually on the fly while we're flying, while we're driving, to say throttle does not go beyond this point, because there are a lot of unique terrain opportunities in Star Citizen that unfortunately CIG's use of the GTA Online driving mechanic, which is on or off throttle, you push a button and you're at max throttle, it really does not serve this game well. And having to modulate it by just tapping the button rather than just being able to hold the button down, but set a maximum limit, via mouse wheel or whatever you're using. That is something that we desperately need on all ground vehicles. We desperately need a throttle limiter and a compass for direction finding. Now, of course, if I were in charge, if I were out there and CIG kind of came to me and said, hey, what should we do with ground vehicles? Do we want to do this handling thing? I'd say no, not right now. That is not the conversation that we need to have right now. Right now, the biggest thing is a compass and a throttle limiter, and then looking at missions like I've detailed, because on a larger scale, people need, like mining and like cargo hauling, these things are very easy to do. Salvaging to a certain degree as well. Salvaging, unfortunately, requires a number of people to enjoy, but, well, if you own a reclaimer as I do. But people need reasons to kind of jump in, have fun, and then leave. And ground vehicles can certainly fulfill that with a few unique missions, or a whole bunch of just fun little shoot and scoot missions. Ground vehicles can be a lot more rewarding, and it can help explore expose the player base to an area of Star Citizen that really is a large untapped resource in terms of game development and fun and potential for players to have fun. We don't have our own bases on the ground yet. We don't have a lot of the more sophisticated systems in the game that would really lean into this, but certainly what we can do is put in a few simple missions and just allow players to experience the game at the ground level, which I think has as much potential to be exciting and interesting as it does up in space or in the sky. Anyways, this is what I would look at. This would be kind of like my priority list for the things that need to be addressed for ground vehicles in Star Citizen. I'm sure that there are people out there who have different opinions, but but mine is right. It's such a diplomatic way to put it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.